It's going guys, it's Anson here, and today we're back with a brand new Discord bot video. I'm going to show you guys how to create a simple poll system for your Discord server. The way it works is we're going to go ahead and type a command called create poll. It's going to tell you to enter a couple options. Right now the max is 5, but of course you can modify this later on. So we're going to say Audi, Porsche, BMW. And let's say, so since the max is 5, but of course you want to be able to have as much options as you want. So we only need 3 for now, so I can just say done and it'll give me 3 options, and it's gonna say, okay, if you react with check mark, the poll will go through. If you react with the X mark, it's going to cancel the poll. Okay, so I'm gonna say check mark. Poll will begin in 2 seconds. So right now I have it set to 60 seconds. So once 60 seconds pass, it's going to process the poll and it's going to give us the results. But what we can also do is, let me go ahead and type Audi, and I can go ahead on my other account and I can just type Audi as well. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll early using stop vote. And you can see Audi received 2 votes, Porsche received 2 votes. And you can see it says the winner. Okay, and if there was a draw, it would say there's a draw. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to do this real quick. And I will warn you guys, it's going to take, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it's going to be worth it. It's a lot. This is actually a really cool system that you can implement. Okay, so I have all the basic stuff down already. Again, this is not really a beginner tutorial, but I will try my best to explain everything to the best of my ability. But if you don't understand how to make Discord bots, you need to, 1, make sure you know JavaScript, and 2, start out with other tutorial videos, like, ones that actually show you how to get started with your bot. I have videos on my channel, you can go ahead and check it out. But again, this is not a beginner tutorial. Okay, so anyways, the way this whole thing is going to work is we're going to need message collectors to actually collect the messages from the users. So what we're going to do first is we're going to set up 2 commands. We're going to say if message.content.toLowercase equals, and we're going to just say create poll. All right, and then I'm going to set up another command just to check, not check, but just to allow the user to stop the poll early. Because sometimes you might want to stop the poll early. You can, if you want, you can also use another message collector to ask the user how long they want the poll to go for. But I'll let you guys handle that yourselves, because it's not really going to be too difficult once you understand how this whole thing works. Okay. Okay. So we have a command !create poll. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go ahead and tell the user, okay, listen, we want enter your options. Okay, so we're gonna say message.channel.send, enter options, max 5, type done when finished. Type done. Type done when finished is fine. But the idea is basically if they want only 2 options, they can just type done and it'll stop the collector early. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and create a message collector. Now you could use await messages. I'm not going to do that because I don't know if you can actually stop the collector early with await messages, because await messages works the same way a collector does. The only difference is it's promise based, and I couldn't figure out if you could actually stop early. And I went on the official Discord JS server and I asked that question. Yeah, I think the better way to go about it is using a message collector and listening to events, and I'll show you how it works, don't worry. So what we're going to do is we're going to say let collector equal, and I'm going to create a message collector on the channel. So we're going to say message.channel.create message collector, because the text channel has the create message collector function. Now the only channels that you can actually create a message collector for are text channels, right? Because they're guild channels. Text channels, because they receive text. DM channels and group DM channels. You can't create collectors on anything else, at least for now. Okay, now this takes in 2 parameters. One is required, which is a filter function. So we're going to say filter. Now this filter function is what's going to be used to process. It's going to be used to check each message. Okay, so if this filter function is not met, if the condition is not met, it's not going to process that message, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So the filter function takes in 1 parameter, which is the message object, and what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to do 2 things. Okay, we're gonna have to check if the person who's sending the options is the same person that created the poll, and we're also gonna check if they sent the string done okay? Because if they send done, that means we're going to stop the collector early. So we're going to go ahead and say if m, right, which is the message that the user is sending for the options. So we're going to check if the author is equal to the message, right, the person who sent the create poll command, content, not content, I'm sorry, the author ID. So if that's the same, we're then going to check if m.content .to lowercase is equal to done. And if it is, what we're going to do is we're going to reference this collector. Remember, this is a message collector object. Okay, and if you want to see for yourself, we can go over to message collector, and you can see it extends collector. Okay, and it has these properties and methods as one method called stop, and it literally just stops the collector and it emits the end event. Okay, so let me go back over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say collector.stop. Okay. All right. And if they don't type done, then all that means is that they're actually typing in an option. So we're just going to return true. That means that this is a valid message to process, and it's going to be added to the collection. Okay. So if it doesn't meet this requirement, then that message will not be added to the collection. Okay, which I'll show you how that looks like in just a sec. And of course, else we're just going to return false. Don't process any other messages that don't meet this requirement. So now we're going to take this filter function and we're just going to pass that in as the first parameter. The next parameter is a message collector options object, and it's going to take in, we're going to take in max matches, and we want it to be 5 for now. Of course, you can always ask the user, you know, how many options you want. Okay, but for now we're just gonna hard code it to 5. Okay. All right, cool. So now we have the collector. Let me actually show you guys how this works. So the collector has 2 events. It has the collect event and it has the end event. I'll show you how this works. So we're just gonna log. So the collect event, the collect function takes in a message object. And the end event, the callback function for that, the handler function I should say, takes in a collection, which is basically all of the messages that pass the requirement. That pass the filter. So I'm just gonna log the size for now. So let's go ahead and try this out. Let me just make sure my other bot, yeah, right. I want to make sure this is not running. Let me just make sure that this is running. Okay, awesome. So we're gonna say create poll. Let's just say Audi, BMW, Porsche, and you can see in the console it's logging all of them out while we are typing it out. Okay, it's kind of like stream. Okay, so I think now if I do done, it stops the collection. It stops the collection, and this end event. This end event is emitted, and you can see that the collection we can call .size, the property .size on it, and it's going to give us 3 because we only typed in 3 options. Okay, and all those messages met this requirement, and once we typed done, we manually stopped it. Okay, isn't that pretty cool? Now here's the problem though. Okay, right now we can continue on with our code. Well, there's really no problem right now, but right now we could continue, right? So what I'd normally do after we stop the options is we would have to get the user to actually start voting. The problem is though right now I would have to do, if I try to do stuff outside over here, right? So let's just say for example, I want to get all the poll options. Okay, so what I could do actually is let's see, I could technically create an array called poll options like this. And I want to use camel case. I didn't, right? And as we are collecting, because remember, this event is only going to be emitted if it passes this filter function, okay? So as this collect event is being emitted for each time there is a message to collect, we could say poll options dot push, and then we can say message dot content. The problem with this though is that the only way we can actually reference poll options to make sure it has the correct values is inside either the collect event callback function, but it wouldn't make sense to do that because we wouldn't get the actual final values, right? So we'd have to do it inside the callback function handler for the end event, right, inside over here. The problem with this though is that we might actually need to use other events later on, and I want to avoid callback hell. Okay, because let's just say, for example, I might need to use I might need to listen to another event inside over here. Okay, it's gonna look really nasty, right? And of course, if I try to console log poll options over here, it's going to print out an empty array because these two events, all this stuff happens asynchronously, and I'll show you in just a sec. So if I try to do create poll, right, you're gonna see that it logs the array, and I haven't even typed anything yet. Okay, because these actions happen asynchronously. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and of course this is just personally for me, you don't have to do this yourselves, but everyone has different programming styles. So I just want to make sure you guys understand what exactly I'm doing. Okay, so we don't really need this collect handler. So I'm sorry, we don't really need to handle the collect event because we don't really care about it. All we care about right now is when the collector ends. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and create a function called get poll options, and this is gonna take in the collector object over here. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually say return new promise. And whenever you want to, let's say for example, if you want to write a function that manually returns a promise, you have to always use this kind of syntax. So return new promise, and it takes in two parameters, resolve and reject. Okay, this is very good for wrapping callback functions inside promises, or yeah, wrapping callback functions inside a promise. Okay, so what we can do is we can actually handle that callback function, and once that callback function is done, we can resolve, and we can just go back to where we are, and we can continue without having to worry about callback hell. Okay, so the idea is basically like this, where instead of doing collector.on inside this callback function over here for the async message, right, what we're going to do is we're going to say collector on end, and we're going to say collected right over here. So we're going to handle all that stuff over here. We're going to handle the events inside here when the collector has finished collecting messages. And what we're going to do is we're going to call the resolve function over here. Okay, so basically if you don't understand promises, basically promises have states. They have the pending state, they have the fulfilled, and I think the last one is rejected. Okay, so when you resolve a promise, basically that means it's fulfilled. Okay, and we want to resolve all of the poll options. Okay, because remember, this collected collection is basically all of the messages that were sent by the user that invoke the create poll command. And I don't care about the ID of the message. I don't care about the author of the message. I only care about the actual contents of the message. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say collected.map, and this is going to create a new array of it's going to take the current array. So actually collected actually does have the it's actually a collection, not an array, but it does have utility functions that you can use, and it does have map. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take in a high order function. M is going to be the message object, because we are going through the entire collection of message objects, and I'm just going to say m.content, and that's it. Okay, so this is going to go through the entire collection, map everything to map all the contents of the message to a new array. Okay, so watch this. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and say await get poll options. And because we're using await, you want to make sure that the function over here is asynchronous, the callback function for message. So we're going to pass in that collector object, which is an instance of the message collector. And now let's go ahead and log poll options now. And you're going to see that it's going to basically wait for this promise to be fulfilled or rejected. In this case, it never really rejects, but it's going to wait for this to be fulfilled. And once it's fulfilled, we can actually log it to the console. So let's check that out now. So let's just go ahead and say create poll, pizza, sushi, done. And you're going to see that it waits for this whole thing to be resolved. And once that's resolved, we get the array. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, cool. All right, so now that we have the actual poll results, what we need to do next is we're gonna go ahead and just send that message to the user just to let them verify, okay, is this the poll that you want? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just say, let's see, we're just gonna create an embed message. So up here, I'm gonna say let embed equal new discord.rich embed. So I'm actually on, so I will mention this, I'm on version 11.5. I think it's 1. As of version 12, it might be a little bit different, just letting you guys know. But in version 12, instead of rich embed, it's actually .message embed. Okay. So set description. So I want to just send all of the options to the user. So I'm just gonna say poll options. So remember, this is an array. Okay, and I'm just gonna join the array with the new line character, so it's on its own. So each option is on its own line, like you saw earlier. And I'm gonna say let confirm, and I'm gonna say await message. Whoops. Equals await message dot channel dot send, and we're just gonna send the embed. The reason why I am normally I don't really care too much about storing the message that was being sent. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to react to it next. Like you saw earlier, it created those 2 reactions over here. So in order to actually react to that message afterwards, what you have to do is you have to get the message property. I'm sorry, the message object that is returned after you call .send. Because when you call .send, this function actually returns a promise, and it resolves the message object, which is the message that was sent. Now, because I'm using async await, I'm awaiting this .send function. Okay, so I can actually get that message that was resolved by the promise stored inside this confirm variable over here. Okay, and I can go ahead and say await confirm.react, and I'm gonna go ahead and get the emojis now. So you can go ahead and just say, you can use whatever emoji you want. I'm just gonna use regular emojis, so I'm gonna use that, the check mark, and I'm gonna go ahead and also just get the react, and we're gonna need a cross. Of course, you can use any emoji you want, but I'm just gonna use these 2 just for simplicity, and we're just gonna react with those 2. Okay, awesome. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and actually await for these reactions, because we want the user who created the poll to react to that message, to confirm or reject the poll. Okay, so this video is actually this video covers a lot about message collectors and reaction collectors. So at the end of this video, you should understand how they work a lot better. Okay, so if I want to wait for reactions on a specific message, we're gonna need to use the reaction collector. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and say, let's see, let's reaction. So the await reactions actually returns a collection of all of the reaction. I think it's called reaction messages. I think, or no, message reaction objects. There we go. So it returns a collection of all the message reaction objects. We only care about one reaction, so whether or not they check or deny. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say await confirm. Okay, and we're gonna say await reactions. I don't need to use now. Of course, one could use. Let me just show you real quick. You could also do something like create reaction collector, but I don't need to use this. Okay, because again, the reason why I used create message collector was because I want to be able to manually stop the message collector. Okay, and I don't think you can do that with await messages. But in this case, for await reactions, we only need one reaction, and we don't care about when it happens. We just need it to happen. Okay, so like the regular message like the create message collector function, await reactions needs to take in a filter. This filter is going to be a little bit different, so we're going to call this reaction filter. And this is actually going to take in 2 parameters. It's going to take in the reaction object and the user object. Okay, and let me just fix this. I'm a little bit messy. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to check just to make sure that the reaction that was sent by the same user who invoked the poll command. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and say user the ID equals message the author dot ID. Okay, and we also need to just do one more check right here. We're just going to use the AND operator, the logical operator, and say user is not a bot. Okay, so if the user who invoked the command, who created the poll, is the person who reacted, and the user is not a bot, then we're gonna go ahead and that's gonna be our reaction filter. Okay, then we're gonna accept that reaction. So we're gonna pass in the reaction filter parameter over here, and await reactions options is just gonna take in. We only care about one emoji, so we're gonna say max 1, like this. Okay, now this is always going to return a collection of size 1. So I'm just gonna do dot first, because you can call the dot first function on collections, and it'll get you the first whatever element it is, the first element inside that collection. Okay, so we're gonna call dot first, and yeah, that's it. That's gonna get us the message reaction. Okay, and now if I go ahead and I'm just gonna, before I do anything else, I'm just show you what's gonna happen. So reaction.emoji.name. So right now, so far everything is good. We have it so far. So when we once we finish our options, it's going to send us the message, and it's going to give 2 reactions, and we can react to it. Okay, so let's try this now. So let's just say pizza, sushi, done. There we go. It reacts to it, and now if I react with checkmark, it's gonna log checkmark. Okay, and notice how if I react with X, it's not gonna log it to the console because we only care about one reaction. So let's just say pizza, and I'm just gonna say done, and we're gonna react with X, and you see X. Okay, so now the next obvious thing to do is check to make sure which reaction the user reacted with. So if reaction.emoji.name equals the check mark. So you can actually just copy the emoji like this. If you're using your own custom emojis, you would actually have to check you would have to actually pass in the string of your emoji. Okay, and if they react with this, or reaction.emoji.name, ultimately, it doesn't really matter what else they react with. We only care if they reacted with the check mark. So even if they react with something else, we could hit the else case. But we want to be consistent, so we only want to make sure that these 2 reactions are the only ones that we're caring about. Okay. So so if it's going to if they react with the X emoji, we're just going to say you cancel the poll. Poll canceled. Okay. All right, so cool. Now that case is done. Now here's where all the fun happens. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do is once they react to the check, we're then going to immediately invoke the poll. Okay, of course, if you want to modify yourselves later on, you can have it set so once they have the poll created, you can make it so that the user can start the poll whenever they want. That would be a little bit more dynamic, of course, so it would avoid them having to constantly recreate the poll over and over again. Okay, but we're just gonna say let begin message. Actually, yeah, let me just actually, instead of doing that, let me just do this. We're gonna go ahead and say message.channel.send. We're just gonna say poll will begin in, I guess, give them a certain amount of time to get ready. Let's just say 5 seconds. Okay, awesome. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to create another function that's also going to return a promise right over here. So again, what I'm trying to do is I want to do a set timeout. Okay, now of course I could do a set timeout up over here. Actually, yeah. Give me 1 sec. I could do it up here, but of course, like I said earlier, I want to avoid callback hell, and I want to make sure my code is nice and clean. So I'm actually just going to create a function called delay, and I'm going to wrap this inside I'm going to wrap the set timeout inside a promise, because the set timeout is going to basically delay it's going to delay the poll start by whatever amount of seconds we want it to be. So I'll show you what I'm going to do just in a sec. Okay, so what I'm going to say is set timeout, and I'm going to go ahead and say resolve after time. Message, I guess. Why did I put message in here? I don't need message in here. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so right over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say await delay, and I'm going to pass in 5 seconds. So for seconds, the set timeout function is going to delay it by milliseconds. So you want to make sure you pass in. So if you want 5 seconds, you have to make sure it's 5,000. Okay, so basically take the number of seconds you want, multiply it by 1,000. So if you want 10 seconds, it would be 10 times 1,000, which is 10,000. Okay, so again, I could have put the set timeout up over here, and then I could have started the poll, but I don't want to do that because again, everything would be inside that arrow function in there. Okay, that callback function, and I don't want to avoid callback hell as much as possible. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to await this function. Okay, and after 5 seconds, it's going to resolve this promise. Okay, and then we're going to go back to over here, and then I can continue with my code, and I don't have to worry about, you know, nested callback functions, which pretty much a lot of people hate the most. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And of course, if you have any questions, always make sure you leave comments down below, or just join my Discord server and ask. I'm always happy to answer all your questions. Okay, so now that we have delayed it by 5 seconds, what we're going to do is we're going to say message.channel.send vote now. Okay, so before I do anything else, of course, I always want to show you guys what we just did. Instead of just coding everything all in one go and then telling you guys it works, I want to show you guys step by step what's actually going on. So let's go ahead and create a poll. Let's just say pizza, burgers, fries. Very unhealthy, but who cares? Done. And then now poll will begin in 5 seconds. Okay, and it's going to say vote now. Okay, awesome. So that works. So the delay works perfectly. Now I encourage you guys to actually learn how to use I think it's utils.promisify, but basically this whole process is called promisifying a callback function. Okay, and obviously we could have written a standard promisify function where you can just take in any function you want and it will just wrap that function for you instead of just creating a bunch of functions. But that would take a little bit more time to think about. So, but don't worry so much about that for now. Okay, that's a little bit more advanced. Okay, so now that we have so vote now. Okay, so you probably guessed. Okay, what do we do next? Right, we tell the user to vote now. Okay, now here's where we're gonna do a bunch of crazy stuff, but don't worry, it's not gonna be too crazy. What we need to do is we need to keep track of the users that have voted already. We need to keep track of a tally. Okay, and most importantly, we need to use a message collector to collect all of the users' votes. Okay, remember, you can only vote once in this poll. Okay, I mean, of course, again, you can modify it to your own needs, allow users to vote however many times they want. Okay, but we're only going to limit it to just one option. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a couple data structures. So we're going to go ahead and say let user votes equal new map. So this is just going to be a map that's going to hold all of the votes that the user has. It's basically going to hold all of the user IDs and their votes, if that makes sense. Okay, because we want to be able to keep track of which users actually voted. Okay, so we're going to use this data structure for it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say let vote, not vote collector. We're going to say let poll tally. Okay, so this is going to keep track of the tallies for each option. Okay, and so for this one, instead of using a map, I'm actually going to use the Discord collection class, or the Discord JS's collection class rather. The reason why I'm doing this is because later on I'm actually going to need to I'm going to have to use the .array function, which I don't think the default map has, because the collection class is actually just it's just a subclass of the map class. So all the functions that you can call on map, you can call in collection. But the collection class has its own utility functions that you can use, which are pretty nice. Okay, so I'm just going to use collection instead. Now over here, what I'm going to do is this poll tally. Remember, this poll tally collection is going to keep track of all of the tallies for each option. Okay, so basically what we need to do is we need to make sure that this collection, their keys, each key is the option that the user create the poll specified. So for example, if I specified let's say pizza, burgers, fries, then this poll tally map is going to look something like this. It's going to look something like pizza, and it's going to map to the number of votes, like 5. And then burgers is going to map to the number of votes, 7, for example. Okay? So what I'm actually going to do, and this might look a little bit weird, but inside the constructor of collection, because remember, this is a subclass of map, and you can initialize a map by passing in an array of arrays. Okay? But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and say poll options. We're going to use the map function. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go through each element inside the poll options map. So each element would be the option, which is a string. And I'm just going to set it, we're going to transform it to the option with 0. And I know this looks a bit weird, but I'm going to explain, like always, what I'm doing. Okay, so if we log poll tally, okay, let's go ahead and just do this again. So create poll, let's see, pizza, burgers, fries, sushi, done. Okay, and did it do anything? No, not yet. Okay, so in 5 seconds it's going to log to the console, but I'm going to show you what exactly I just did. Okay, so now we have a collection. Okay, now notice how I have all of these values initialized just from this line. So basically what it does is, remember, the map function, all it does is it creates a new map based off of another map. Okay, so I'm taking the poll options. I'm sorry, it basically takes, I'm sorry, not a map, but the map function pretty much transforms an array into a new array, however you want. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking the poll options array, I'm calling the .map function, and I'm saying, okay, for each element inside the poll options array, I want to actually return a new array, and that's going to be stored inside this, and that's going to be stored inside the poll options. Okay, so we're basically saying, okay, put the poll option array. Put the poll option element inside the put inside an array with 0. Okay, so what it's going to look like ultimately is just going to look like an array of arrays. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. So it's going to look something like this. Let me just show you real quick. Pizza 0, burger 0, and for every single no, not burger, 1. And let's see what else is there. Sushi, I think fries was the other one. But you guys get the idea. So once I call .map on poll options, it's going to transform it into this. Okay, and we're essentially just passing this whole array of arrays inside the collections constructor. Okay, because of course that's how you can also initialize a map as well. Okay, but I just wanted to show you guys what it looked like. Instead of just telling you guys that this is what it does, I want to show you guys how it actually works internally. So if I actually do this, if I do console.log poll options map, and if I do O0, and if I log it to the console, let me actually change this to just 1 second for now, just for debugging purposes. Create poll, pizza, sushi, apples, done. React. And you can see what I just showed you earlier. This is what essentially the map function did to our original array. We took the original array, poll options, which had only pizza, sushi, and apples, and we transformed it into an array of arrays, where in each array we have the options, and then the next element inside that subarray is 0. Okay, and that 0 is basically going to correspond to the votes. Okay, so I just want to make sure you guys understand what that actually does. Okay, and if you don't care enough, well, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so after we've done this, so once we've initialized our poll tally collection, what we're going to do next is we're going to create a message collector. So this message collector is going to collect all the votes, and all the votes are going to be, it's going to be universal. So it's going to take it from every single user. Okay, so we're going to say let vote collector equal message.channel.creates message collector. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a filter. We're going to create a filter function. So we're just going to say let poll filter. This filter isn't really going to be that special because we don't really care. Because the only thing we need to check for, I guess, is if the bot sent the message. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter what messages we're collecting for now. Okay, the only thing we care about is when we collect messages that are actual valid options. Okay, but we're gonna do that inside the events, inside the collect event, which I'll show you in the next step. So first, let's pass in this filter function, and for the options, we're going to set the time to 60 seconds. Now, of course, you can set this to whatever you want. You can even use the message collector to ask the user, hey, how long do you want this poll to go for? And they'll, type in the amount of seconds. Then over here, you would get that value that they entered earlier, and you would take that value, multiply by 1,000 if they specified seconds, and then it would be 60 seconds. Okay, but we're hard coding it to 60 seconds for now. Okay, so we've created the message collector. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do the same thing that I've been doing the entire video. I'm gonna go ahead and create a new function. Okay, I'm gonna call this process poll results. Okay, so this function is gonna take in a hefty amount of arguments. It's gonna take in 4. It's gonna take in the vote collector. It's gonna take in the message collector object. It's gonna take in poll options, which is the array that has all of the options for the poll. It's going to take in the user votes map that we created to keep track of the users who voted, and it's going to take in poll tally, which is used to keep track of, which is a collection that is used to keep track of the tallies of each option. Okay, so I gotta call this function up here. So this function is also going to return a promise. So we need to await it. Right over here. So poll process results, and we're gonna pass in all the parameters I just mentioned, or all the arguments. So first one is vote collector, so that's this variable over here. The next parameter is gonna be poll options, which is the array, like I mentioned. The third parameter is going to be user votes, which is the map that keeps track of all the users that are voting, and poll tally. The reason why we need user votes is to prevent users from voting twice, and poll tally is used for tallying all of the polls, the options. Okay, all right, so cool. Now inside this process poll results function, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna say return new promise resolve reject. Okay, so earlier in the video, if you're still watching, basically what we did what we did earlier was we used the on function on the vote collector, because remember, vote collector can handle 2 events. It can handle the collect event, and it can handle the what's it called, end event. Okay, we're gonna handle both of those events inside here, and I'll explain why we're gonna do that. Okay, but the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to handle the collect event. So basically inside this event, what we're gonna do is we're going to check to make sure that we're gonna check a couple things. One, we're gonna make sure that the user has not voted already, and we're also gonna make sure that their vote, that the vote that they submitted is a valid option. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, let me actually just check one more thing. Okay, I'm actually gonna go ahead and do this to lowercase. Okay, so that way we have an array of all the everything lowercase, because right now everything's perfectly typed. Okay, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and say let option equal message.content to lowercase. So what I'm doing is I'm basically saying, okay, for every message that's collected, so it's going to collect actually every single message that is not sent from a bot, because we have this poll filter over here. Okay, so right now I'm just storing the user's message inside option over here, and I'm going to go ahead and say if user votes has message.author.id. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm checking the user votes map. I'm checking if the user votes map does not have the author's ID. So if it doesn't have it, that means they have not voted yet. Okay, and we're also going to check if poll options includes, which is going to check to see if a specific element is inside that array. So you can use the .includes function on an array to check if a specific element exists inside that array. In this case, we're checking to see if the user's option, if the user's vote that they submitted is a valid option. Okay, so we have to check that inside the poll options. Okay, and the reason why I to lowercase the m.content down here and get poll options is because I'm setting every element inside the poll options array to lowercase. because we want to make sure that we ignore casing. All right. All right. So that's pretty much it for there. I mean, of course, you could use a regular expression, but we're not going to get into that. All right. So now, if this is true, we're going to go ahead and update the user votes map, and we're going to set the key to message.author.id. So this will make sure that we actually know that they voted already, and we're just going to set the value of their key to their votes. All right. And what we're going to do next is we're going to update the poll tally. Okay, so we're going to say let vote count equal poll tally dot get option. Because remember, the poll tally is basically just a map with all of the options mapped to the amount of times that it was voted. Okay, so I can get the specific option by their key. Okay. So we're going to get it, and then we're going to then say poll tally.set option plus vote count, and that should be it for there. And once we're done collecting messages, so once 60 seconds has gone through, this end event is going to get emitted, and we're just going to resolve collected for now. Okay, and we're just going to do a simple console.log, and we're just going to say collected dot size votes. Okay, cool. So when we resolve inside here, it's going to go back to where we called it. Okay, so once all of this stuff is done, we're going to go back up here to line 40. Okay, all right, so now that we're up here, let's actually go ahead and check what our let's see, let's look at poll tally, whoops, and let's look at user votes. So again, of course, I always want to show you guys what actually happens after I write a line of code. So I'm just going to log those two to the console just to show you guys what actually happened. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a poll. Just say pizza, sushi, burgers, and we're just say done. So in 1 second, we're going to need to vote. So let me open up my other account. So we're just going to say confirm. So pizza. And over here, I'm just going to say sushi. And then now, if I go over to my console, after I think 10 seconds is what I set it to, it should log them to the console. Yep, there you go. So you can see pizza has 1 vote, sushi has 1 vote. So this is my Discord ID for my main account. And that maps to my pizza vote. And then on the other account, it maps to the sushi vote. Okay? All right, cool. So now that that's done, what we need to do next is we need to then check the winners. We need to get the poll results. So what I'm going to do is I need to actually get we need to check the winner. So in order to check that, we need to go through the user votes, or not the user votes, the poll tally, and we need to check the maximum value. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say let max equal math.max ... And I'm going to say, so the spreader operator is going to pretty much expand the entire array out. So I'm going to say poll tally dot array. Because remember how earlier I mentioned that I want to use the collection, the Discord JS's collection, instead of the map, because I want to basically get this poll tally map into an array. So if I actually do poll tally dot array, okay, you're going to see it's going to look like, I'll show you what it looks like. Let me just change this to 5 seconds just to speed things up a little bit. And we're going to say pizza, sushi, done. And we're going to react with this. Let's just say sushi, sushi. And let's just say sushi again. And you're going to see that, wait, what did I just do? Hold on. Okay, yeah. So basically, when you call .array, it's going to give you an array of all of the values, it seems, like over here. Okay, and of course, if I do ... which is a spreader operator, it's going to spread that entire array out. So let me show you what that does. So let's just say create poll again, sushi, pizza, done. And let's react to it. Sushi, and on my other account, am I fast enough? Sushi, nope, I don't think I got it. But you can see that with the spreader operator, I have instead of an array, I have like 2-0, okay? And in order to use math.max, this needs to be, it can't be an array, but it needs to be like I think the comma separated values, which is what we need. Okay, cool. All right, so now that we have the max, so what math.max is going to do is going to get the maximum number inside of the list, or I don't know what to actually call it, but it's going to basically get us the maximum number. This whole thing will get us the max number, which is going to be the max number of votes. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go through the entire the map, and we're going to have to check which key maps to that max number. And if whichever key maps to that max number, that means that key, that vote option is the winner. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say let entries, and I'm going to use another spreader operator, and I'm going to say poll tally.entries. Okay, so remember, poll tallies is a map, so we can call. I mean, it's a collection, which is also a map as well. We can call .entries. Okay, so if I go ahead, if I do poll tally.entries, okay, let me show you what that does. Create poll. Let's just say pizza, sushi, done. React. Let's just say pizza, and let's just say pizza again. And you're gonna see over here we have a map iterator. So when we call spreader operator, we're gonna get the actual entries of the map. Okay, so what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a new array. Let's see, let's winners is this empty array, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, well, we're going to send an embed message. So we're going to say let's embed equal new discord.richembed. We're just going to say let disk. So we're going to set the description of the embed message, but what we want to do is we're going to say entries for each. Okay, so for each entry, now remember this entries is an array of all these elements. So it's gonna look like this. It's basically an array of these arrays over here. Okay, so we're gonna go through each array using .for each, and we're gonna say entry. And we're going to say, let's see, description. What we're going to do is we're going to say description plus equals entry 0. So that's going to be the option. And we're going to say received. And we're going to say entry 1. That's the number of votes. Votes. Like this. Okay, so we're just basically concatenating the desk variable. So then I can just do embed.set description, and I can say desk like this. Okay. All right, cool. So one more thing that we need to do actually is we need to actually get the actual winner. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm then going to right up over here. I'm going to go through entries again. I'm going to say for each, and I'm going to say entry. Remember entry. This element over here inside the callback function parameter, this is the actual, it's the subarray inside that large array. Because right now entry is an array of arrays. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say entry subscript 1 if it's equal to max. So I'm going to use a ternary operator. So if this is true, it's going to evaluate winners.push entry subscript 0, which is the option. And if that's false, then we're just gonna say no, we're not gonna do anything. Okay, so this is gonna get us the winners inside that array. So now again, if I go ahead and log winners, so I gotta be a little bit faster. I'm actually just gonna change the time to 6 seconds. Hopefully I'm fast enough to get it. So just say create poll, sushi, pizza. So I'm gonna say done. So I'm just gonna pre-type this out. So just react with that. Vote now and pizza, and you're gonna see in the log, it's gonna say winners, sushi, and pizza. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to check. We need to say if winners.length is equal to 0, and if that's the case, we're just gonna say, well, I'm sorry, not 0, 1. I'm sorry, 1. So if it's equal to 1, that means there's only one winner, okay? But if it's greater than 1, that means there are multiple winners, which means the draw. So we're just going to go and say await message Actually, we don't really need to wait because we don't need to. We don't care about the value afterwards. Let's send. We're gonna say, what is it? Winners subscript 0 is the winner, and we're just gonna send that embed message that we created, and then else we're just gonna say we have a draw. Oh, we don't need to wait. Send. We have a draw, and just send that embed message. All right. All right, so let's actually see how this looks like now. So let's go ahead and create poll again. Pizza, sushi, burgers, and let's just say done. And let's just go to this other. I'm just gonna pre-type it on my other account. So we're gonna React, and let's just say pizza, sushi, and in 8 seconds it's going to stop the poll. We have a draw. Let's create another poll. Pizza. Sushi, done. Let's React again. So pizza, and then we're gonna say pizza again. Received 2 votes. Pizza's the winner. Okay. All right. Yeah, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Obviously. All right. Cool. That's pretty much the gist of it. Obviously. Now, obviously, there's one problem though. We need to make sure that the user actually specifies at least 2 options. So you do want to make sure you account for that. So what you could do is you can say, let's see. What you can do is you can say, where's the collector? Okay. Hold on. Poll options. Wait, poll options. You can say if poll options dot length is let's see, what is it? Less than 2. You can say message dot channel dot send. Not enough options must contain 2, and you can return. So let's go ahead and do that. Create poll, pizza, done. There we go, just like that. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna do one more thing. I know we're at 51 minutes right now, but I'm gonna do one more thing before I end the video. I'm gonna show you guys how to stop the vote early. Yeah, so this is actually gonna be lots of fun as well. So what we're gonna need is we're going to need a global variable that is going to keep track of the polls that each user created. So I'm going to put that all the way up here. I'm going to say const, where is it? Const user created polls equal new map. Okay. And basically what I'm going to do over here is this whole entire map is going to keep track of users who created a poll. Okay. So what I'm going to do is right over here, I'm going to go ahead and say if user created polls has, we're going to check if it has the author's ID of the message. And if it does, we're going to say message.channel.send. You already have a poll going on right now. Okay, and then we're going to return. Okay, and it's not going to do any other stuff over here. Okay, so now if they don't have a poll, right? If they don't have a poll, what we need to do is we need to set the this map that we just created. The what was it called again? The user created polls map. We need to actually set the ID mapped to the vote collector. Okay, so we're gonna do that right over here. Right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, actually, no, not here. I'm sorry. It has to be right over here. So I'm going to say user created polls dot set message dot author dot ID, and we're going to pass in vote collector here. So basically this vote collector is going to be, so for every person that creates a new poll, this vote collector is going to be its own instance. Okay. So basically, when we set message.author.id to vote collector, this is the vote collector that is going to be mapped by the author's ID, their poll. Okay. The reason why we're doing this is because what we're going to do is we're going to go inside the stop vote function over here. I mean, not function. We're going to go inside the stop vote else if statement over here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to say if user created polls has message the author.id. So if they did create a poll, or I mean, I'm sorry, if they create a poll and it's going on right now, we're going to go ahead and say console.log trying to stop poll. And what we're going to do is we're going to say user created polls dot get message.author.id. Okay, dot stop. So by getting what we're doing here is we're getting the value of the ID that it's mapped to. So that's the vote collector. That's the message collector that's collecting all the votes. And then we're calling stop on it. So that will automatically emit this vote collector end event. And it's just going to process the entire poll results. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead. And once we do that, we need to also make sure we remove them because they did finish their poll. Author.id from the map, remove them from the map over there. And then we'll just do a simple else message.channel.send. You don't have a poll going on right now. I do apologize if there was any background noise. But yeah, so you don't have a poll going on right now. Okay, and let's go ahead and try this out right now. So create poll. Let's go ahead and do, so right now we have it set to 60 seconds. Okay, so you're gonna see I'm gonna go ahead and stop the poll early. So let's just say pizza sushi done. React, so pizza, and we go my other account sushi, and I'm gonna say stop vote. We have withdraw. Pizza receive 1 vote, sushi receive 1 vote. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of this whole tutorial. I mean, it's I know it's a lot. It's a pretty it's a lot. I can tell you that. So it's definitely, so don't feel overwhelmed if you don't really understand like everything. Just try to like break it down one by one. Of course, if you don't understand any programming at all, and if you try to just copy and paste everything, I promise you're not going to make any progress. But of course, if you have any questions, just feel free to join my Discord server over here. And yeah, we're always answering questions for you. So if you need any help with programming, you know, anything related to programming, or just have any questions, or just want to talk about, you know, programming in general, you're free to join our Discord server. I'll leave a link in the description. And as always, well, not always, but I'm going to leave a link to my GitHub repository where you can get the code for this. Okay, and you can, you know, modify yourselves or whatever. You don't want to type everything out. But yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it for this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Peace.